Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome here to the launch pad and our live launch coverage of the very exciting mission for Rocket Lab, their first ever mission from the United States, their 33rd Electron mission in their history. We are now counting down 45 minutes until launch. If it's your first time here, welcome here at the launch pad. It's our mission to inform and inspire the explorers of tomorrow because we believe that space is better together. And if you haven't yet, take a moment to engage that subscribe button so you never miss another live launch coverage, space briefing, space news update, or exclusive one-on-one interview. As always, as we get started, take a moment, let us know in the chat where you're watching from, and take a moment to engage that like button. It really does help us out, and if you want to, you can share out the broadcast as well, as this is a very historic mission for Rocket Lab. We're going to run through everything we know about today's mission ahead of Rocket Lab getting underway, and once they start their live coverage, we will of course patch them in. But if you want to know more about today's mission, as always, you can head on over to tlpnetwork.com or the link that's in the chat there, and you can check out our detailed mission briefings where you can follow along with all your upcoming launches. We're adding more and more info to these briefings every week, so definitely take a moment to check those out. One of the things we absolutely love about this is the time that you see here on the top of your screen on our mission briefings. That is always your local time zone, so no more do you have to calculate UTC or the Eastern time. Those will always display in your local time, and of course there's the countdown on the top. Today's mission will carry 3 Hawkeye 360 satellites into orbit, and as we said, this is their first launch from Rocket Lab Launch Complex 2 at the Wallops Island Launch Complex in Virginia in the United States. As we continue to run through everything about today's mission, if you guys have questions, you can send those in the chat by tagging us at the launch pad, and we'll work on answering those over the course of today's stream. Of course, we're going to listen in to Rocket Lab once they actually go live. But today's mission name is Virginia is for launch lovers, and we'll be deploying satellites for the leading radio frequency geospatial analyst provider Hawkeye 360. As we said, it's their first launch from Complex 2, which they've been working on for a number of years now, and this will also be near the future home of the Rocket Lab Neutron rocket. Today's launch window does last for about 2 hours, and they are currently monitoring the upper level winds, but they have proceeded with propellant load onto the Electron rocket and are still targeting the opening of today's window. At this time, though, everything else for the rocket and the range is currently green, and they are continuing through today's countdown. It's great to see so many people joining in from here. Shout out a couple people. We got Ohio. We got Southern Michigan's with Chris. We've got Amy in Southwest Michigan. Lots of Michigan. Northern Michigan. We got Janice is Indiana. We got Chris in Hawaii. Great to have you all here with us. If you haven't yet, take a moment, engage that like button, share out the stream. Rocket Lab is getting underway here, so we're going to patch in mission control and hear an update on how the rocket's propellant load and learn more about today's mission as well. But as always, you can keep sending in those questions in the chat by tagging us at the launch pad, and we will work on answering those. We wouldn't be doing the YouTube thing if we didn't bring a couple things up. Make sure you engage that subscribe button so you never miss another live launch coverage, space briefing, or space news update. And of course, it is launch day, which means you can head on over to the shop, use promo code LAUNCHDAY, all one word in caps, and you can get 10% off of everything in the store. But let's listen in to Rocket Lab Mission Control as we count down 41 minutes to launch of Virginia is for Launch Lovers.
Welcome to Rocket Lab's live broadcast of our very first mission from Launch Complex 2 on Virginia's Eastern Shore. It is a beautiful sight to see Electron on the pad in Virginia with chilly but clear weather here, just 2 miles back from Rocket Lab Launch Complex 2 over on the shoreline of Wallops Island. My name is Muriel Baker, and I am here with Mission Manager Jane McNichol. Thank you for joining us for today's mission, our 33rd launch of Electron, but our highly anticipated first flight of the launch vehicle from within the NASA Wallops flight facility in Virginia. Now, as we approach T0, we are keeping a close eye on the upper wind levels over LC2. Right now, they are trending red for launch, and if they remain that way, our operations team will likely go into a hold. But we have a 2-hour launch window today, so if we do go into a hold, the operations team will wait and watch for those wind speeds to come down to acceptable levels for liftoff. We'll keep you updated through the count, though, and on this broadcast if that happens. But in the meantime, Jane, it is great to have your company today. Now, as a mission manager for Rocket Lab, you know exactly how much work goes into the preparation and launch operations for our team and for our customers. All of that hard work leads to launch day, so why don't you tell us a bit about how the team is feeling as we approach T-minus 39 minutes on the clock.
Yeah, on launch day, there is a buzz around our sites as it's the most exciting day of the whole mission process. Nothing beats the feeling of watching Electron lift off from the pad, knowing that it's the culmination of all of the hard work that goes into a mission, not just on behalf of Rocket Lab, but also our customers. Everyone really rallies together in support. The whole Rocket Lab team loves launch days, and all 1,500 of our people will be watching from our various factories and facilities tonight. We've got a mission name for today's launch that encapsulates those feelings well. We've added a qualifier to the state's well-known slogan and gone with Virginia is for launch lovers for today's mission. The name is both a nod to our new home for Electron and recognizes our partners, Virginia Space and the Mid-Atlantic Regional Spaceport, and NASA, who have all supported getting Electron to the pad today. Virginia is for launch lovers also ties in our Virginia-based customer flying today, Hawkeye 360. They've manifested a cluster of 3 satellites on Electron today that will form part of their constellation to detect and monitor radio frequency signals around the world, which Hawkeye 360 used to provide geospatial insights to their global customers. Here's Hawkeye 360 to tell you a bit more about their mission.
And if you're just joining us, welcome here to the launch pad. They're playing a video here from Hawkeye 360, so we're going to take some time and answer your guys' questions live, but of course we will leave them on screen as we continue counting down 37 minutes 40 seconds until the opening of today's 2-hour window, which hopefully will see a launch of Electron for the first time from the United States. As they said, the winds currently are trending red for that T0, so we will see later in the countdown in the final 15 minutes or so, they can enter a hold, and that's where they could hold for up to almost 2 hours to monitor wind conditions. The winds currently are an issue in the higher elevations of Electron's flight path. Everything at the actual launch complex is trending green at this time, so we'll be keeping a close eye on that as we continue through today's countdown. If you guys have questions, you can continue sending those in the chat by tagging us at the Launchpad. We'll work on answering those live throughout the stream. I know I saw a couple people saying, "Where's the plaque?" I will bring it out later in the show, so make sure you stay tuned for that as we continue through today's countdown. This is a long-awaited mission for Rocket Lab and Hawkeye 360, having been targeted for now over a year, bringing Launch Complex 2 online. Let's listen back into Rocket Lab Mission Control.
Hawkeye 360 today, and an honor to have their satellites be the first to leave our pad at Launch Complex 2. This mission will actually be the first of many with Hawkeye 360, who last year signed on for 3 Electron launches, starting with today's launch in their home state, followed by 2 from our Launch Complex 1 in Mahia, New Zealand. Altogether, Electron is set to deliver 15 of Hawkeye's satellites to low Earth orbit between now and 2024 to support the growth of their constellation.
While Jane and I are here across the marsh from Launch Complex 2, further down the road is Rocket Lab's Integration and Control Facility, or ICF, from where our Electron launches from Virginia are managed by our team of operators. This is where our team monitors pad and launch vehicle readiness in the lead up to launch. They are working alongside range partners NASA and officials from the Mid-Atlantic Regional Spaceport, or MARS, and the FAA. Shortly, they'll begin their status poll of how launch operations are tracking for an on-time liftoff at 6 p.m. local time, or 2300 UTC. Now that poll comes in at T-minus 35 minutes to launch, which we are coming up to now. So let's switch over to the audio channels and listen in to our launch director at the ICF run through that poll.
Okay, all stations LD on countdown. Proceeding with the status poll for launch sequence 46. Standby for poll for current and expected status for launch. Report green or red, tracking green or red for launch. Stage.
Stage is green, tracking green.
Avionics.
Avionics is green, tracking green.
GNC.
Sorry, repeat, please.
Yeah, GNC, just looking for a status for launch. Report green or red, tracking green or red for launch.
GNC is currently red, tracking red, with the upper winds being too high for our structural limits.
Copy, we'll keep a close eye on those upper level winds. And VCon.
Beacon's green, tracking green.
T1.
1 is green, tracking green.
GC.
GC is green, tracking green.
PLS.
PLS is green, tracking green.
Mars CE.
Mars CE is green, tracking green.
Mars Ops.
Mars Ops is green, tracking green.
MM.
MM is green, tracking green.
NASA LWO.
Oh, it's green.
NASA GSO.
GSO is green, tracking green.
NASA PM.
NASA PM is green, tracking green.
NASA RSO.
RSO green, tracking green.
And NASA TD.
NASA TD is green, tracking green.
And NASA LWO LD countdown.
LD, this is L1, countdown 1.
Can you please provide a very brief summary for the weather at T0?
Copy that, LD. This is your L-minus 30-minute weather briefing. Still expecting winds around 130 knots in the upper levels. Looking at our trend, very similar.
So as we heard there out of mission control, we are still red for those upper level winds, but with the range green, Hawkeye's payload is healthy and the launch operations are going to remain on schedule as we wait to see how those winds do. But as I mentioned, we are tracking towards that T0 for today's departure to space at 6 p.m. local time or 2300 UTC. Now, today's launch is a team effort made possible through the support of NASA, Virginia Space, and the Commonwealth of Virginia. Construction work on Launch Complex 2 was completed in late 2020, a build process that involved more than 150 local construction workers and contractors who completed the job in just 11 months. But the path to first launch from Virginia required more than just a physical launch pad. With today's launch, we are bringing a new capability to the Mid-Atlantic Regional Spaceport for the first time, an Autonomous Flight Termination System, or AFTS. Now, AFTS is a GPS-aided, computer-controlled system designed to terminate the rocket should a serious issue be experienced in flight, for example. Now, flight termination systems are a vital part of launch operations. Traditional flight termination infrastructure is a ground-based system that involves a person deciding whether to terminate a mission if the rocket strays from a predetermined flight path. But by contrast, the AFTS is an independent, self-contained subsystem mounted on board the Electron launch vehicle. It eliminates the need for a ground-based system by moving the flight termination function to the launch vehicle. Now, AFTS is crucial in increasing launch frequency and providing responsive launch capability, while maintaining the highest industry safety standards. We've been flying an AFTS on Electron from Launch Complex 1 in New Zealand since 2019, but today's mission is the system's debut in Virginia. Now, flight termination, as I mentioned, has exclusively been managed with humans in the loop at NASA Wallops Flight Facility. And for almost 20 years, NASA and the Department of Defense have been working to develop an autonomous system that is open to all range users and which can bring down the cost of access to space. And we are proud to have partnered with NASA and the DoD to bring AFTS to life here at Wallops. So spearheading the efforts to bring Electron launch to the Eastern Shore has been our Vice President of Launch, Sean DeMello. I had the chance earlier this week to have him explain how it feels to finally be at first launch for Electron from LC2.
Hi, my name is Sean DeMello. I'm the Vice President of Launch Systems here at Rocket Lab. Welcome to Launch Complex 2.
And if you're just joining us, welcome here to the Launchpad. Rocket Lab really loving their music there as we now pass through that L-minus 29 minutes, 15 seconds and counting until the opening of today's 2-hour window for Rocket Lab's first ever flight from Virginia and from the United States. Teams continue to monitor the weather conditions. We just had that go, no go poll where you heard teams say what their current status was and how they're trending for that T0 mark. All teams reporting green and trending green except for GNC with the weather. Now, with the weather, they are going to continue monitoring it. They'll come down to most likely that 15-minute go, no-go time frame. And if they remain red, they will hold at that point and hold through that 2-hour window, hoping winds can improve enough that they may have a launch opportunity. If at a certain point that it looks like they're going to continue trending red for the rest of the window, then at that point we would hear the dreaded S words that would cancel the rest of today's launch attempt. But they're not at that point yet. We have a 2-hour window, and teams are continuing towards that liftoff of time right at the top of the hour, just 28 minutes from now. If you guys have questions, you can continue to send those in the chat by taking us at the Launchpad, and we'll work on answering those throughout the rest of today's stream. As we said, on board, there are 3 satellites on board for the Hawkeye 360 company, and this is the first of 3 flights the Hawkeye will be flying on Electron.
I know our team has worked so hard and is so proud to be here in Virginia, bringing responsive and reliable launch to the Eastern Shore. Now, Jane, you'll be familiar with the amount of work that goes into bringing a launch campaign to the pad quickly for those types of missions.
That's right. To get launches away weeks or even days apart requires streamlined systems and a proven, experienced team. After 32 missions, we have exactly that. Since April of this year, we've had an Electron mission every month. The fastest turnaround time between missions was just 15 days when we launched the capstone mission to the moon for NASA and followed it up for a mission with the NRO just days later.
Yeah, that one was really a fantastic effort from the team. Now, since we've got this view of Electron on the pad up on the screen, how about you take us through an explainer of Electron?
I'd be happy to. Let's work our way up from the bottom to the top. Electron is a 3-stage launch vehicle that stands 18 meters or 59 feet tall. It's a unique rocket with a couple of world-first titles to its name. The first is that Electron has a fully carbon composite tank structure, making it strong but still very lightweight. Another first for an Electron is its use of 3D printed electric pump-fed engines to power the rocket to space. These are the Rutherford engines, and together, 9 of them propel the first stage, while a 10th powers the second stage of Electron. They use batteries to power the electric motor behind the engine's rotodynamic pump, and were the first engines with an electric pump feed cycle to fly to space. The engines are structurally the same across both the first and second stages, with the exception of a larger expansion nozzle on the second stage engine for operating in the vacuum of space. Electron also includes an 11th engine, a tiny machine by comparison, called the Curie engine. This engine powers the rocket's third stage, what we call the kick stage. Since the Curie is a relightable engine, we can burn it multiple times to bring our customers' satellites to their precise destination in orbit. Nestled on top of this, inside the fairing, are the 3 Hawkeye 360 satellites for this evening's launch in just about 25 minutes' time, and that's our Electron launch vehicle.
It's a chilly winter evening out here in Chincoteague, but for myself at least, and I'm going to hazard a guess and say for Jane as well, we couldn't miss the chance to watch Electron's liftoff from across the marsh in person. But for those of you tuning into the broadcast from the comfort of home, if you are living along the eastern seaboard, you may even be able to catch a glimpse of Electron in the sky as well. Obviously, the closer to Chincoteague you are, the sooner into the launch you could see Electron. But even as far south as Georgia, as far north as Maine, and as far west as Ohio, it is also possible you'll see Electron streak across the sky from around 2.5 minutes after liftoff. Of course, for the best views though, stick with us on this broadcast.
If you're here in Chincoteague with us too, there are plenty of viewing spots throughout the county. The launch viewing area at the NASA Wallops Visitor Center is one of the only public sites with a clear view of the launch pad just 7 miles from the range. Once we're off the pad, though, you'll be able to see well from Chincoteague Island, including the Robert Reed Waterfront Park located on Main Street, south down Main Street to Curtis Merritt Harbor, and the bike trail near the Museum of Chincoteague Island. A reminder that we could be a little bit delayed here on the broadcast, so while you're sticking with us, keep an eye on the skies from around T-1 minute on the broadcast if you're viewing in person. Now, a lot of different departments across the state of Virginia have come together to get Electron to the pad for its debut launch from LC-2. Between Virginia Space, NASA, and Rocket Lab, this is a joint effort that marks a new beginning for commercial space on the Eastern Shore. Let's hear more about what it took to get to the pad today.
Moment in our history, in the long and storied history of Wallops, with over 16,000 rocket launches. The Starling launch today represents a new era of resilient and responsive access to space.
And if you're just joining us, welcome here to the launch pad. We're keeping a close eye on the weather conditions down at Wallops. Peter Beck of Rocket Lab just tweeting out this image from their flight control computers showing the wind conditions over the course of that flight time. And you can see right on there during... right about 70 seconds into flight, it's a very large spike across there, and wind conditions there flagged as red for no-go. So this is the conditions they are currently monitoring and seeing how winds will look towards the actual launch window opening, which is now just under 22 minutes from now. But very interesting to see this detail from Peter Beck being released here as we continue through. I have to give it to Rocket Lab also, giving some great details on, if you are local to the region, on how you will be able to view this launch. Very exciting to have Electron now finally on the US side, opening up for a lot more people to be able to see, and be able to see it a lot closer than you could in New Zealand. And we hope to be down there next year to bring you coverage live on site from one of these Electron missions, as this is not a one-off. This is going to be something we hopefully see more regularly from Rocket Lab down in Virginia. Teams are continuing through propellant load of the Electron rocket ahead of the opening of today's window, but that's the biggest story right now, is we're just going to keep an eye on those wind conditions as we continue through the countdown towards the opening of today's window. If you guys have questions, you can keep sending those in the chat by taking us at the launch pad. We'll work on answering those. Grace is asking, who is Rocket Lab? Rocket Lab is a... Excuse me, one second, had another window pop up. Rocket Lab is an American aerospace company that we've primarily only ever seen launch from New Zealand. Their company developed a lightweight, cost-effective commercial rocket, which is Electron, and which was founded on the premise of bringing small payloads like CubeSats into orbit with a smaller launch vehicle at a much more affordable rate and at a much more frequent rate than you would see launching from a Falcon 9. If you want to learn more about Rocket Lab's Electron rocket and themselves, you can head on over to tlpnetwork.com/launches or drop the link in the chat there for you. That's where we have our detailed mission briefing, and you can learn more. We're working actually on more of a detailed guide to Rocket Lab and Electron that'll be coming out in the new year as well, so you can stay tuned for that. We're going to continue listening into Rocket Lab mission control as we approach that 15-minute mark where we have another go, no-go poll. Let's listen in.
Closest to the screens, there sit our partners, including NASA and the Mid-Atlantic Regional Spaceport, from the left to right, with our launch regulator, the FAA, on the end. As LC2 is located within the Wallops flight facility, which is a NASA range, the agency is supporting today's mission with operators across ground safety, range safety, system safety, and weather monitoring. In the middle row is a mix of Rocket Lab operators across avionics, which are the electrical systems driven by software that tell the rocket how to operate and where it should go. And the ground control engineers are sitting there too. The operator managing the propellant loading system for Electron is closer toward the middle, sitting next to 2 engineers from Mars. At the back of the room, on the left, we have mission management and our vehicle control specialist, or VCON, and on the right, our leadership team offering executive support for the mission, sitting next to our IT engineer. In the middle, we have our Electron stages operator with the call name Stage, who monitors Electron's propellant tanks pressures, fuel usage, engine ignition and firing, and overall status of the engines. And then finally, next to her, we have our launch director, who leads all of the operators for this mission and has overall responsibility for the safety and success of the launch.
Switching now to Rocket Lab's Mission Control Center, or MCC, in Auckland. In the front row is our RF engineer looking after our communication systems between Electron and our global ground stations, and our ICE operator managing instrumentation and control engineering. At the end of the middle row on the right is Flight Analysis, who watch over our trajectory data for the mission as it relates to our range and mission safety criteria. Next to them are our shadow operators for Stage and Beacon, and our guidance, navigation, and control operators who make up the end of that middle row. They monitor onboard navigational systems and guidance computer software on Electron and are responsible for determining the position of Electron's first, second, and third stages in space. At the back, we have ComOps looking after all data, voice, and video communication systems for launch. And then finally, Rocket Lab's Launch Safety Officer and the shadow support for the Launch Director.
Avionics LD countdown.
LD avionics.
Can you confirm the stage 2 umbilical POF is nominal?
Confirmed.
And confirm HVB balancing is disabled?
Confirmed.
And confirm internal HVB heaters are disabled?
Confirmed.
ComOps LD countdown.
Go ahead.
Can you confirm that the video streams are in sync?
Can confirm.
Okay, and I confirm that the primary abort switch and watchdog are configured and ready, and I am actively monitoring countdown cord, LV cord, range cord, and safety net. At this time, we do plan a T-minus 12-minute hold while we wait for further balloon data as upper level winds die down.
LDGC on countdown.
GCLD.
The umbilical arm and prime sequence is complete.
Copy, thank you.
So just confirming what we heard there out of mission control, it sounds like our operators are going to go into that hold at T-minus 12 minutes just to wait out those upper level winds as they are currently too high for our launch time at 6 p.m. So again, just to repeat, we will go into that hold at T-minus 12 minutes, and as we get more updates out of mission control, we will share them with you here.
LD, NASA PM, countdown 1.
NASA PM LD.
Please confirm receipt of the 1 hour partial balloon data and be advised that the 15-minute balloon has been released.
Copy, can confirm receipt of the T-minus 1 hour partial balloon data, and thank you on the T-minus 15.
And if you're just joining us, welcome here to the launch pad. You're looking at a live view of Rocket Lab's Launch Complex 2 in Wallops, Virginia.
Beacon LD.
Beacon T-minus 30-minute milestone sequence 48 is complete.
Copy, sequence 48 complete, thank you.
We're continuing to listen into the control nets as we approach that 12-minute mark. This is where we will be entering into a hold due to upper-level wind conditions exceeding their launch parameters. We do have a 2-hour window, so this does not mean we are done for today. They will be holding at this point, Electron being fueled, basically ready to go. We'll sit there. They have released the T-minus 15-minute weather balloons, so they're going to be getting some new weather updates of those upper level wind conditions, and we are officially going into that hold now.
Just note that we have just reached the T-minus 12-minute hold. We will be holding at this point for further balloon data, and we'll update as soon as I can.
So that weather balloon has been released, and we'll be waiting for that new information.
We will not be proceeding with the go-no-go poll until we confirm that we are happy with the balloon data.
We will continue listening into the mission control nets there as long as Rocket Lab provides them as we continue through this hold. We do have that 2-hour window.
As we heard it there from Mission Control, those upper level winds are expected to be out of bounds at the T06 p.m. liftoff time, and we have gone into a hold to wait for that additional weather balloon data. So as we wait for that hold, we'll be going into a hold here ourselves on this broadcast too, but we will come back and share updates from Mission Control as we receive them. Stick with us though and keep your fingers crossed for a drop in those wind levels.
So we will be monitoring their nets there as we continue through the countdown here now in a hold. This is an undetermined length hold. They will be waiting for the data from those new weather balloons. But if you guys have questions, you can send those to us in the chat, and we'll be answering those over this period of time. We got that 2-hour window, so we could be answering your questions for a while. So make sure you're sending those in the chat with the @launchpad in your message. That flags it so we can bring it up in the system, and we don't miss your questions there. But so far, other than the wind conditions, a really smooth countdown for Electron for the first time here in the United States at the Wallops flight launch site in Virginia. So that is a great thing. This is not an issue with the rocket, the range. It's wind conditions, which is really out of everyone's hands, which is a really great sign that Rocket Lab has prepared for this, and they are still targeting a possible launch here this evening, but we will not be hitting the beginning of today's launch window. C4 Explorer saying this rocket was originally set to go up on the 11th. This rocket's been planned to go up for a while. We've been expecting the first Electron launch for over a year from the United States. They just got their FAA license this week, so that's why we're out at the pad here today. But that's why we'll be keeping a very close eye on these conditions to hopefully have a good flight bringing Electron online in the United States. Conan asked how I'm doing. I'm doing good. Excited to see Electron fly. You can see them switching between some different live views there, showing the launch complex on a little bit of a wider angle, similar angle to what you could possibly even see if you were down in the region. SV Hollins is asking, do they have plans for their second U.S. launch yet? Yes, they have a number of other launches that they plan to do from the United States. Capstone was originally planned to actually launch from the United States as well, but that launched out of New Zealand. They've not released timelines for those as of yet, but they are planning on having more here in the near future. Estrella, what is this rocket to do in space? The rocket won't actually do anything. It will be deploying 3 satellites into orbit, and it's the satellites that will be doing all of the work. The satellites that are on board are for Hawkeye 360, which is the leading radio frequency geospatial analytics provider, and that is who they will be launching for, as it is a private payload mission. We don't get a total amount of detail about what today's payloads are doing all the time. Rough idea for the countdown, though. Payload deployment expected 57 minutes after liftoff here today, so a little bit of a longer deployment with the Electron rocket today. SV Hollins, any launches down at the Cape? Not with Electron. Electron at this time will not ever launch from from Cape Canaveral. Just checking in there as they were showing mission control. We are keeping an eye on those weather conditions currently, the upper level winds. Jeremy, I'm mildly curious why they chose Wallops. Living near here, I've seen a lot of launches get scrubbed day after day. Is it actually feasible? I think there was a few things. One, it was the being able to build all of their facilities very close together they were wanting. It is a very quiet launch facility really now, so it does give them a lot more flexibility for their rapid cadence they eventually want to see Electron get to, and now we know with Neutron coming online in Virginia as well, we know they want to have kind of some more flexibility. If they were launching out of Cape Canaveral, obviously they're competing with SpaceX and NASA and ULA and Firefly and maybe Astra eventually and new Blue Origin, and you're fighting for range time, where with Wallops it is a bit quieter, and it meets the parameters of what they need for Electron to be able to deploy the small satellites that they need to launch. Space Private, just curious why the different launch locations. Different launch locations for Rocket Lab is to be able to provide their customers with more options. It also provides options of doing multiple launches a day. Theoretically, we could see Rocket Lab now launch possibly even up to 3 Electrons in a day. They've got 2 sites in New Zealand and 1 now in the United States. So we could see that actually happen. They just have to have a rapid cadence of developing their Electrons, which they are doing. Having multiple launch sites also gives more flexibility in where your payloads can be developed. So a payload being developed in the United States now does not have to get shipped to New Zealand. Most payloads that get launched from the United States are actually built in Europe and have to be shipped over to the US. So Rocket Lab is saying, well, let's build some in the United States, work with the universities that are launching CubeSats, and be able to launch them from US soil rather than shipping everything down to New Zealand, introducing more time, risk to the payloads, and things like that. Major's asking, why is this hold? We are in a hold due to upper level wind conditions at this time. We do have a 2-hour window, so we are keeping a close eye on that. What I'll do in a moment here, I'll take a commentary break, and we'll actually put a countdown on that will show you the end of the window. So we'll keep an eye on that. Happy Space, thank you so much for that super chat. Appreciate it. Hey, Zach, glad to see you streaming this launch. Thank you and all you guys for the hard work. You guys rock. Appreciate that. Thanks so much. We appreciate your support there. It helps us do what we do. We tried so much to have someone on site for this launch, and it wasn't in the cards for this one. A little bit short notice for us to get some of our team on site, but we are working with NASA to have people there in the future for it. So we appreciate that. William, can you send a message to your subscribers when the countdown restarts? Unfortunately not. We do have a couple options for you, though, William. We can ping our Discord, so if you have joined the Discord, we can ping you there. We also are tweeting updates, so we will tweet an update when the countdown has resumed, so if you have our notifications on there, that is an option as well. Daniel Whitehouse, do you have a description of the Electron rocket? We have a little summary one, I believe, but we are working on a full rocket breakdown that'll be up on our website in the very near future. We are actually working, and we'll kind of tease it a little. We launched our astronaut database. Well, soon we'll be launching our rocket engine database and our rocket database. So you can keep a close eye out on that. It's where we'll have breakdowns of rockets from all over the world with detailed briefings that you'll be able to access 24/7. So keep a close eye out for that. We're hoping to get that out to you guys in the near future, going through some last little bits of design and data verification for that. Ben is saying Sweden have launch sites, wonder why they ship it to the States. Sweden and the UK and Europe are really just having their launch sites come online now, and a lot of the time they're part of rideshare missions or different things, or are actually needing larger rockets that do not launch out of the Europe or the UK at this time. Susan is asking if it launches, do we know what trajectory it will? We do. Let me pull that up for you here. Rocket Lab actually did tweet out an image that we will pull up here. I know our Discord's showing it as well. Really great opportunity if you do live in the region to be able to come out and see the launch, possibly in the region here. Let's see if we can zoom this a little bit here. There we go. So this is the launch trajectory for today's Electron. So almost straight to the east, a little bit to the south there, but you can see in the bottom right corner of your screen that is a legend on how long after liftoff that you should be able to see the rocket. So if you are in Philadelphia, Baltimore, Washington, Charlottesville, Richmond, Raleigh, Charleston, Pittsburgh, all the way up here to the north, there is an opportunity that you will be able to see today's Electron launch. Should we be able to launch in the sky? Obviously that is due to your local weather conditions and cloud conditions, but we'll retweet this out if you want to take a closer look at it as well. But a really great opportunity to possibly see a launch here today. Now thinking about it, I should text my cousin. She just moved over there so she could see her first launch today. But yeah, if you're in the area and you do happen to see it, if you can take a photo or a video of it, make sure to send that to us on Twitter, TLPN_official, or you can email it to us. Our email is on the YouTube or on the website as well. We'd love to possibly feature you on the live stream or on our social medias as well. So definitely something to keep an eye out there as we continue through waiting for an update on the status of the weather conditions, but we are still remaining in that hold due to upper level winds. Appreciate that, Kismac. Yeah, we tried to make sure that it was quick and accessible. We got a lot of new stuff coming out to it in the near future. We've got almost a year worth of new features and stuff coming out already planned, so excited to keep adding more and more to that to you here in the near future. This launch is out of Virginia in the United States, Tim. Joe, sorry for being late. No worries at all. Is this a collab with SpaceX? As in, this is a Falcon launch. Never heard of Rocket Lab. Forgive me. Nope. This is all Rocket Lab. This is an Electron rocket that's on your screen. Once it's all iced up, it does look like a Falcon, but it is not. It is a much smaller vehicle compared to it. You can actually push it when it's laid down on dollies. One person can push it themselves difficultly, but they can do it for it. So it's a much smaller vehicle launching CubeSats and smaller payloads. There are 3 Hawkeye 360 satellites on board. SpaceX is not part of this mission at all. Rocket Lab is a U.S. company that is, until today, only launched out of New Zealand, but they are bringing their U.S. launch complex online today in Virginia, and we're just hoping that wind conditions will now behave, that we'll actually be able to see a launch here. catching up on any of your questions. Ginger is asking, the upper level winds keep acting up. If they scrub, hope they won't, when is the next launch window? I believe they have another opportunity tomorrow. Generally, most windows are when they have a larger window, like a 2-hour window, they do get another opportunity the next day, but we'd be waiting to confirm that. They do not always release all of that data. You want me to text my cousin on air? We'll see. I'm going to wait till the countdown resumes and then tell her just to go outside and look outside. She watches the channel. She might know. Again, if you are just joining us, welcome here to the Launchpad. You're joining us for our live launch coverage of Rocket Lab's first ever Electron launch from the United States. We are in a hold due to upper level winds, and we're waiting for updated data from the new weather balloon that just was sent up at the T-minus 15-minute mark to the opening of the window. We are now officially 2 minutes into today's window. We're going to take some time and answer your guys' questions, so you can send those to us in the chat, and we will be answering those live for you. I'm going to take a very quick commentary break. We're going to get a countdown on screen for the end of today's window, so you guys will be able to follow along with that. So bear with me just one moment, and I will be right back, but stay with us right here on the Launchpad for our live coverage of Electron 33, the first Electron launch from the United States. Stay with us. And there we go. We've got that updated countdown now on your screen. So 1 hour, 54 minutes and counting left in today's launch window. That is how long we will be monitoring these winds. We are technically holding roughly at about a 15-minute mark in the countdown. So we do have just over about an hour and a half left that they would be able to give a go to resume countdown and actually go for a launch at the end of the window. If you guys have questions, you can keep sending those in the chat. We'll work on continuing to answer those through the rest of this hold. We are keeping an eye on getting any updates from Rocket Lab at this time. So far right now, everyone's just talking on Twitter about the upper level winds. We've not had any updates from that new weather balloon as of yet. But we will be holding still at T-minus 12 minutes on the clock. Catching up on the chat with your questions. You can keep sending those in. Make sure you tag us at the launch pad. That flags us so we don't miss any of your questions, so we can work on still trying to answer those as well. Woody bring up Electron carried Capstone, which is a satellite that is testing out a new orbit around the moon that will be planned to possibly be used for the Lunar Gateway Space Station. Is absolutely correct. That launched out of New Zealand. It was originally scheduled to launch from the United States, but at this time they were not able to bring it online at that time, so they did move it over to New Zealand. Can you see the launch from the old Wallops ferry dock? Absolutely. You'll have a clear view from it. I can bring up the map here again of where the view visibility of the launch today, because it's a night launch, gives you actually a much better opportunity to be able to see tonight's launch. Let's bring this up here. So this is a map from Rocket Lab confirming the view radius around it. But if you live anywhere from Philadelphia to Baltimore, Washington, Pittsburgh, Raleigh, Charleston, Charlottesville, all the way around there, you'll be able to see it. So if you're anywhere near the Wallops site, you will definitely have a great live view within the first minute of flight, but stretching all the way to 3 to 4 minutes into flight, you will be able to see the first stage of the Electron rocket, as long as you have clear skies, obviously due to your local weather conditions. Metcraft is asking how many times and where will it land. So the Electron at this time is not a recoverable rocket. They do hope to make it recoverable in the future. They've done a couple recovery attempts. Sometimes they recover it out of the water. They are still working on their helicopter recovery system as well. We had the first helicopter recovery attempt early this year. A second one was unfortunately waved off just a couple of months ago due to weather in the area and loss of telemetry of the booster. But they were able to recover that booster out of the water. So it will eventually be a recoverable rocket and reused, but at this time they are new Electrons that are always being used. Any more information about the various engines and what fuels they are using? Absolutely, we can run through what we know about those if you want. For it, keep sending in those questions, and we will work on answering those here today. So the first stage of the Electron rocket uses 9 Rutherford engines that provide 24 kilonewtons of thrust, or 5,600 pounds, and the first stage of the Electron rocket burns for 311 seconds. The second stage uses 1 Rutherford engine, but is a vacuum-optimized version, and it burns for 343 seconds, providing 25.8 kilonewtons of thrust. The third stage of the Electron rocket they call their kick stage, and it is an optional third stage that has some different variations they can do. So they have their kick stage, their photon, and then they have a deep space version of photon as well. It is designed with a single Curie engine that produces 120 newtons of thrust. Like the Rutherford engine, it was designed and fabricated in-house with Rocket Lab using 3D printing. And this is the kick stage that we have seen them use to deploy Capstone and many other of their missions. They are also planning missions to Venus and other planets as well. So we'll be seeing Electron doing a lot of exciting missions in their near future for them. The first and second stage, they run on a rocket-grade kerosene, or RP-1, and liquid oxygen. So that's a quick summary of the Electron rocket there. It's a pretty basic kind of rocket. Does what it needs to do, and small and compact, but it packs a punch and is able to do everything they need to do there. We are working expanding that out into all of the mission briefings as well, so stay tuned for that information coming in the very near future. How long will Electron be launching before Neutron takes over? So Electron will continue to launch even after Neutron. Neutron will be more of a competitor towards something like a Falcon 9 or something like that. But Electron will keep launching. It is a small sat launcher. That's what it's designed for and optimized for, so it'll continue to do that. Neutron, we are not expecting to see take flight for another 2 or 3 years for test flights. So we got some time before we see Neutron launching from the United States, which will at this time exclusively launch from the United States. They are working on building their Neutron factory just down the road from Wallops. William, does the saltwater affect any parts of the rocket that's recovered from the ocean? Absolutely. Saltwater is a big reason why early rockets were not recovered and reused. That corrodes on the engines. That's why they want to recover it with a helicopter, so they don't have to deal with the water issue. But because they are 3D printed engines and it's different composites, they are able to do some refurbishment, and they've done some early testing on relighting recovered engines from the Electron rocket. So we have not seen a reflight yet, but they are in that process of preparing for one. Let's listen in to Mission Control.
Here, if you have just tuned in for this Virginia is for Launch Lovers mission from LC2, we are in a hold in the launch countdown due to strong winds in the upper atmosphere above Electron's launch site. Our launch director has called for a hold in operations to wait for those winds to come down so we can fly within our safety bounds. The team is assessing the next best time to set our T0 liftoff time for, but otherwise, Electron remains in a state of readiness, same as the Hawkeye payloads, and we'll continue to let you know how things are tracking.
Nice little update there from them at about 15 minutes into the hold here. We still have an hour 45 left in the window, which means we have an hour and a half left for them to actually resume today's countdown. They're saying it's launching from... So Electron normally launches from New Zealand. This is its first launch from the United States. And if you guys have questions, you can keep sending those in the chat by tagging us at the launch pad, where we'll continue answering those. We are going to take a quick commentary break, and I will be back, but stay with us right here on the launch pad as we continue our live launch coverage of the first ever Electron launch from the United States. Stay with us.
but it's not a NASA payload. Electron has been the ride to orbit for several NASA satellites, though, including the Capstone spacecraft that we sent to the moon earlier this year. While we wait for these upper-level winds to ease off, let's look back at that mission.
minus 12-minute hold while we wait for balloon data to determine whether the winds are easing. Tonight's launch window does extend to 8 p.m. Eastern Time, so we have time to sit and enjoy this beautiful but chilly Wallops night. Stay tuned for updates.
Here with us on the broadcast. As we await liftoff, we are also waiting for upper level winds to die down so that we can launch safely. Virginia is for Launch Lovers will be our very first mission from this launch pad at Wallops Island, but Electron has launched 32 times before from our first launch site in New Zealand, Launch Complex 1 on the Mahia Peninsula. There, at our own private range, we have not one, but 2 launch pads for the Electron rocket. With those 2 pads and the one here at NASA Wallops Flight Facility, we have up to 132 launch opportunities every year. Let's take you back to February earlier this year when we opened our second pad at Launch Complex 1 and have our CEO Peter Beck explain the benefits of operating multiple launch pads.
To Launch Complex 1 in the beautiful Mahia Peninsula in New Zealand, the only private orbital launch site in the entire world.
And if you're just joining us, welcome here to the launch pad and our live launch coverage of RocketLab's first ever launch from the United States. We continue to remain in a hole due to upper level wind conditions, and we're waiting for updated weather from the weather balloons. Teams are evaluating possible new T0 times remaining in the window. We have 1 hour, 25 minutes, 15 seconds left in today's window, which means we have 1 hour and 10 minutes for teams to resume the countdown. As we are holding at 12 minutes, they normally recycle to about 15 to 17 minutes in the count to do the last go, no go. So we'll have to keep a close eye on that timer for when they will be able to do a launch here. They're playing a video now which has some beautiful copyrighted music in it, as well as Peter Beck, their CEO, talking about bringing their third pad online and how this is a great opportunity for them to be able to launch up to 130 rockets, they say, a year. Obviously, they have to be able to produce that many rockets at this point, but that gives them that many windows and being able to turn over their pads as quickly as possible. If you guys have questions, you can send us those in the chat, and we'll work on answering those as we continue through today's count. I know I saw a couple questions come in the chat already, so I'm going to go back and answer those while you guys send in some more there. Nicola's asking what's the maximum wind speeds that is safe for them to be able to launch. I do not believe we have actually had an exact number released by Rocket Lab for that as of yet. I'll get our team to look into that to see if we do have an exact number, or we'll reach out to Rocket Lab as well for that. But I'll bring up here an image. Let me pull up an image here that Peter Beck tweeted about an hour ago where they were monitoring the winds. They, of course, have been launching weather balloons to get up-to-date information on the status of the weather and everything in the region. And Peter Beck tweeted this just over an hour ago, showing about 70 seconds into flight, they had a very large spike on the wind conditions during flight. This is why they are in a no-go for wind in the range, and we'll be keeping a close eye on that as the launch window progresses. And if we're not able to do it today, we will have another attempt here in the near future as soon as possibly as tomorrow. So we will be keeping a close eye on that as well. I saw another question come in from Josh. Very interesting question. Why should I support you instead of supporting Everyday Astronaut or Angry? Genuine question. You should support all of them. It is literally in our mission statement that we believe that space is better together. We all kind of do our own thing a little bit differently. For it, Tim does some incredible videos, explaining really detailed procedures and thoughts and processes. Angry offers really great opinion and direction and giving some thought-provoking conversations, which is really awesome. And we bring you live launch coverage of kind of everything that's happening, and we bring you space updates and exclusive interviews. So we all kind of do our own thing. So it kind of depends on what you enjoy the most, but I would say support all of them. if you can. Obviously, be financially responsible. But yeah, they all do their own little thing differently, and we all kind of exist. But we believe that space is better together, and that only works if there's multiple of us doing multiple different things. So appreciate that question, though. Really good one there. Catching up on the questions in the chat here. You can keep sending those in there. I've been saying, looking at the weather map and the high winds in the wide area of the East Coast, it is true, but they only need a small gap to be able to get through it. So they are keeping a close eye on that here as we continue through the countdown. Ross asking, has the weather begun to cooperate? We have not had an update as of yet, but we are still hearing that weather is red at this time as we have not entered a new countdown. Great to have so many of you tuning in from around the world. We got Josh in Vermont. Woodfood is on his couch. We got Oddball in Georgia. Damon's in Washington. We've got Pray for America on the mountains of eastern Tennessee. We've got Daniel in Portland, Oregon. We got Grace in Pennsylvania. We got Arizona. Brian's in North Texas. We got North Arkansas, California. Great to have you all joining us here today. If you guys have questions, we're working on answering those as we continue through today's hold, and we'll keep an close idea on how that is performing. We are patching in Mission Control on and off as we do hear updates from them, but at this time they're just playing some music there, but we are enjoying these great live views of the Rocket Launch Complex 2, Rocket Lab's newest launch complex. Kingston is in Canada. We got Pennsylvania. We got Appalachia. We got Orlando, Baltimore, Iowa. Great to have you all here with us. You guys can keep sending in those questions, and we'll work on answering those as we continue through today's hold, and I'll be back with another update shortly. Stay with us right here on the Launchpad for our live launch coverage of the first ever launch of Electron with Rocket Lab from the United States. Stay with us.
We are continuing to wait for strong upper level winds to come down during tonight's launch window for Virginia is for launch lovers. It has just gone 6:56 p.m. local time, which means we have another hour or so to be able to launch tonight's mission, and Electron is standing by and ready to fly from the pad with our mission partner Hawkeye 360, a radio frequency analytics provider from right here in Virginia. Now, with our state-based customer and our launch pad here on Wallops Island, Virginia really is for launch lovers. And if you see yourself amongst the team launching satellites on Electron, and in the future on our much larger rocket Neutron, then there is a place for you. Here's more about the available opportunities right here in Virginia.
And if you're just joining us, welcome here to the launch pad and our continuing live coverage as we count down through the remainder of today's window for the first launch attempt of the first ever Electron rocket from the United States. If it's your first time here, welcome. My name's Zach. I'm the founder and host here at the launch pad. You're looking to the side of me at a live view of Rocket Lab Launch Complex 2, where Electron is fully fueled and ready to go. We are now 1 hour into today's 2-hour window, and up on the top of your screen there, we are counting down the remaining time in today's window. With the holding at 12 minutes. They normally recycle to 15 to 17 minutes we've only got about 40 minutes for them to begin getting ready to restart that countdown. So we are keeping a close eye on that. So the dreaded S word is looking more and more promising for today's attempt, but we'll be keeping a close eye on that, and we'll be continuing to answer your guys' questions live as we await more updates from the Rocket Lab team here. So we'll be keeping a close eye on that. I saw a few people asking about recovery. Is Rocket Lab still attempting to recover their Electron rockets? That is their long-term goal. They still want to be able to turn Electron into a recoverable rocket. They have kind of figured out how to do it where they splash it down softly into the water. They've done 2 attempts at a helicopter catch. One time they caught it and then had to release it due to pressures on the helicopter that were higher than they thought. The second time they went for an attempt and they were not able to do so due to they lost the booster during re-entry, so they had to clear the helicopter for its safety, but that booster did splash down safely and was recovered by their recovery ship. So, long term, yes, there will be recoverable electrons and reusable electrons, but at this time it is not something that is their number one priority when they're launching payloads for their customers. So they are keeping a close eye on that. Estrella, do we have like an estimate on when the hold will end? So the hold will end technically in 43 minutes. Is when technically they will have officially run out of time to resume the countdown right where they are right now and go to the end of the window. But we do know they always recycled a 15 to 17 minutes roughly because they have to redo a go, no go for that terminal count. So we'll have to keep an eye on that as we continue through it. And correction there from Jay, a very important one. Loss of telemetry, not loss of the booster. The booster was splashed down and was recovered safely, but they did lose telemetry during re-entry. Let's listen in.
We do remain in that T-minus 12-minute hold for upper level winds, but we are also receiving updates of a vessel approaching the exclusion zone. So range teams will be dispatching folks to keep the boat in the safe zone away from the launch corridor. But this is just a friendly reminder to stay clear of safety zones on launch day, please. No one wants a scrub for that.
And that is why I love Rocket Lab. They literally just went live on their stream to be like, can you leave? We're going to pull up our marine tracker here in just a moment and take a look to see what vessels we might be seeing in that area. So bear with me as I pull that up. It was not something we were expecting to have to look at today, but we are going to take a look at that right now. So bear with me just a moment as I pull that up here. I want to make sure we pull up the right spot on the map here. And make sure we're looking at the right exclusion zone as well. This is an area that was cleared earlier ahead of today's window, but it is something that they obviously will continue to monitor through the entire window to make sure that it is clear and safe as they go through the count. But they are monitoring, I guess, a vessel that is headed towards the do not enter zone, which would be along the entire trajectory of the rocket itself. Now there's quite a few vessels out there. There's a kind of a clear line. I'm going to pull up 2 images here so it'll give us a clear idea what we're looking at for you guys based on the actual kind of path of the Electron itself here. Let's see how this pulls here. Bear with me one moment. Doing this live. There we go. So there is the current live marine tracker. And to remember, this is the path Electron will be traveling. You can see that straight white line. That's the path Electron will be passing here. So if we look at that, and then we look at this island here, this is Wallops. We zoom in here. There's Wallops Island in here. So if we zoom out on this, that rocket's going to kind of go straight in this line, right off the land here, straight here, roughly. So the only two vessels that I can see being possibly, there's one this way, that's NASA. So that one, that's literally heading to NASA. So I don't think that one's going to be the issue. Possibly there's a cargo vessel out here that is along it that they could be looking at trying to monitor. And then there's a couple other vessels here that they're keeping an eye on probably as well. But we don't have an exact vessel that we know of, but it is something that they are obviously monitoring as we continue to look at the trajectory of where they'll be launching from and the direction. Yeah, if anything, I think it might be this cargo vessel that they're keeping a close eye on. It's going to be probably quite at the edge of the exclusion zone. I'll see if our team, actually Jay, you're here. Any chance you can try to find me the exclusion map? Possibly. If we can pull that up, we can take a look, because I feel like this might be right on the edge of it, and that might be what they're fighting here. So keeping a close eye on that. Of course, now also monitoring the weather. But we do not want to have weather come through and be something clear that we can have a launch attempt, and then we have a risk of a range violation, because ultimately that would not be helpful, and would lead us to the end of the window here today, especially with a vessel out here. That one's too far out for us to use the free version on. Which generally means it's quite a ways off the shore, so we'll be keeping a close eye on that. But yeah, most likely that's the one they're watching right now. I don't see anything else really on that trajectory unless this one, but that's going to NASA, so I think everything else should be clear there, just based on speed. So yeah, that cargo vessel might be misbehaving for them. Unless it's one of these ones down here that they're watching. That could be something, but we'll keep a close eye on this as time continues. We got 50 minutes, 45 seconds left in today's launch window. So we'll be keeping a close eye on the weather, as well as now the range tracking as we continue through the final bit of the countdown. Looking back at the pad, Electron continuing to occasionally vent as it is fully fueled, ready to go, as we are holding at 11 minutes 59 seconds on the clock. That will likely reset to 15 to 17 minutes, so we'll be keeping an eye on that for if the weather clears and the range is trending clear, then they will reset the time and go for another launch attempt. But we are keeping an eye on that over the next little bit here. If you guys have questions, you can keep sending us those in the chat. We'll work on answering them to the best of our ability as we continue through the remainder of today's window. Catching up on the chat for any questions we're missing. Keep an eye out for updates from Rocket Lab as well. Looks like we got through all your guys' questions there. So we'll be keeping an eye on that, the marine traffic, and I'll be back with another commentary update. But stay with us as we count down. We've got about 30 minutes left in today's window before we will have basically run out of time to resume the countdown. So stay with us as we continue for our live coverage of the first ever launch attempt of Rocket Lab's Electron rocket from the United States. Stay with us. And we have received an update from Rocket Lab from the most recent weather balloons that the wind conditions are trending in the correct direction for a launch attempt at the end of today's window. At this time, the countdown remains in a hold due to those upper level winds, but the teams are evaluating possible T0 times. We have about 30 minutes left in the window that they'll be able to actually resume that count before they will elapse being able to finalize the terminal count and get through that countdown. Let's listen into Mission Control.
On the broadcast for tonight's mission, Virginia is for launch lovers. In case you missed it, just a few moments ago, we got the report from Mission Control that the upper level winds are trending down in the right direction. That means we may have an opportunity for liftoff during tonight's launch window, which remains open until 8 p.m. Eastern Time. The operations team are working through the logistics for that right now and will let us know if a new T0 can be set shortly. We'll bring you that update as soon as we have it.
And just like we were saying, they're confirming that confirmation that the weather is starting to trend in the right direction. This is why we have holds. We held out, and it looks like we may get luck and be able to have a launch attempt here today. Teams are evaluating the conditions and the time left on the clock and what they'll need to be able to do to make sure they can hit that window should things continue to trend in the right direction. So we'll be waiting for that official update on when they will be able to set a new T0 for another launch attempt here today of the first Electron launch from the United States. If you guys have questions, you can keep sending those in the chat by tagging us at the launch pad, and we'll work on answering those as we await this update. We are keeping an eye on the cargo vessel out at sea as well. At this time, everything is still looking about the same, but we are looking at anything that may be tracking towards that area. But at this time, nothing perfectly standing out. But good news that the weather is starting to trend in the right direction. I'll be back with another commentary update shortly. Stay with us right here on the Launchpad.
Evening from Launch Complex 2 on the chilly eastern shore of the United States. As you may have noticed, we're currently in a hold at T-minus 12 minutes due to our favorite nemesis, upper level winds. Earlier we heard from operators they were seeing winds trend in the right direction for potential liftoff towards the end of the window, which we have open until 8 p.m. Eastern or 0100 hours UTC. We'll keep you updated as we learn more information from Mission Control.
And if you're just joining us, welcome here to the launch pad and our continuing live coverage of the first ever launch attempt of an Electron rocket from the United States. As you can see at the top of your screen, we now have 28 minutes 14 seconds left in today's launch window, meaning Rocket Lab only has about 15 minutes left to actually pick up their countdown to actually be able to make a launch attempt here. Last we heard, winds were trending in the right direction and teams were evaluating a new T0. We've also been keeping an eye on the marine tracker, and so far we're not seeing anything that is exactly in the exclusion zone. So hopefully it's a vessel that was either super small and they were able to clear it out quickly, or was something that was just out of a line and able to quickly move out of the way. Possibly that it was just a very small boat graft of someone locally just trying to get a better view while they were in the hold, thinking, oh, not a big deal. It's a big deal. You don't go in exclusion zones. But as we come down now, less than 28 minutes left in the window. We're going to be keeping a close eye on the bottom right of your screen, and then we'll update the top left once we have an official new T0. But clock still holding at 11 minutes 59 seconds and holding due to upper level winds, but they continue to trend in the right direction. If you guys have questions, we'll continue to answer those for the last little bit of today's window, and hopefully we will see a good launch attempt here today. Something to keep in mind, if we do see a launch attempt, there are some major milestones following launch that you'll be looking for. Max Q is expected 1 minute 11 seconds after flight. Main engine cutoff of the first stage will be at T plus 2 minutes 26 seconds, immediately followed by stage separation and the ignition of the second stage's vacuum Rutherford engine. Fairing separation will occur 2 minutes 56 seconds into flight, and the big crucial battery hot swap 6 minutes 45 seconds into flight. We will see second stage cutoff and stage separation 9 minutes 14 seconds into flight, and then the kick stage will not ignite until T plus 55 minutes 10 seconds, where it will conduct a 1 minute 8 second burn to put the payload into its final orbit. At T plus 57 minutes 18 seconds, we will see payload deployment. So if we do see a launch attempt here today, there's still another hour until payload deployment, but we'll be keeping a close eye on that as the launch window continues to tick down, now with only about 10 minutes left in the time that Rocket Lab will be able to resume their countdown. The last weather balloon said it was trending in the right direction, so we are keeping a close eye on that weather as we continue through today's countdown. You can see some amazing views there of Electron out at the pad, fully fueled, ready to go. All the red Wallops lights on, kind of fitting for Rocket Lab, gives a really great ambiance to the area. Just catching up on your guys' chat. You can keep sending in those questions. I expect we'll have another update from Rocket Lab here in the next couple of minutes, because we're going to be watching very closely. Last few times they've reset the countdown to 15 or 17 minutes in the count, so they could perform another go no go to enter terminal count. So we'll be keeping a close eye on it there, as with that we have very few minutes left actually in the countdown itself. Josh, thank you so much for that super chat. Appreciate your support there. The questions earlier, thank you so much. And Vins, welcome as a general supporter. Thank you for helping support what we do here. If you guys would like to help support what we do and help us continue to expand and bring you guys the best possible coverage of all these launches, you can do so by becoming a member, sending super chats, or checking us out over on Patreon as well. Of course, it is launch day, which means you can head over to our shop as well. Promo code launch day gets you 10% off of everything in the store. SpaceX is asking, do they have hold-down clamps for Electron? It does have a system that holds it into place on the strong back, just like Falcon 9. It does have a strong back that retracts as well. Caleb, thank you so much for that super chat. Appreciate it. Vibes. Thank you so much. I've seen a few people messaging in the chat about my voice and the coughing. Appreciate your guys' concern and support there. I was very lucky enough to get the vid a couple weeks ago, so I've kicked most of it in the butt, but unfortunately there's always the lingering cough and stuff that comes with it. So we're fighting through it. Couldn't miss this launch, and we're excited to get into our regular live launch coverage with me doing commentary again, as well as hopefully getting Kieran online and beginning commentary in the new year as well with our UK studio. So I do appreciate it though, but unfortunately nothing really helps with it. It just runs its course. Zeno, I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong. Thank you so much for that $5 super chat. Appreciate that so much. Keep it up. And there we go. That countdown. Oh, let's listen in.
Targeting a T0 of 7:59:58 local. That is our last opportunity. We are still monitoring upper level winds. Is still borderline, but we're doing everything we can here.
So there we have it. That countdown clock has resumed. We're just syncing our clocks with theirs, and they are targeting literally the very last second they can in this countdown for the window. So we're going to get rid of that end of the window as we have resumed the countdown. We are now 21 minutes 43 seconds and counting until the targeted time of liftoff there. Just working on syncing up our clocks. There we go. That is the very end of today's window. So countdown has resumed, which is a great sign. The weather conditions still something they are monitoring, but at this time it is they are going to at least make an attempt here, and this is what we've been saying for the last little bit. They were running out of time to resume their count, so they're going to resume the count. They're going to run that clock. I believe we've heard as late as 30 seconds to launch them do a weather poll, and if it was no go at that point, then they will do the dreaded S word and scrub. But they do want to at least get a launch attempt in today's window, so we are going to keep a close eye on that. If you haven't yet, take a moment, share out the broadcast. We're going to continue our live commentary in just a moment, so stay with us right here on the launch. And if you're just joining us, welcome here to the launch pad and our live launch coverage of Electron 33 Virginia. Launches. Virginia is for launch lovers. Gotta get that one right there. Sorry about that. But Electron 33, Rocket Lab's first ever Electron launch from the United States. And we are glad to have you with us here. The countdown clock has resumed. We are now L-17 minutes and counting. And this is until the very last seconds of today's window. So we are keeping a close eye on that. Winds are still red. They are trending good, but at this time they're going to have to run the clock, go through terminal count, and make a final call right at the end of that window. We have been talking about this kind of for the last hour, that if they did not resume by the 17-minute mark in the window, left in the window, they would not be able to, because they still have to do a final go, no go to enter terminal count and then go through their terminal count procedures. And that is what we have now seen them doing at this time. So we are entering into that final attempt of today's 2-hour window. Hopefully the weather will clear enough for them to get Electron off of the pad. We are going to patch in Rocket Lab Mission Control once they begin going into that final go, no go, as we continue through this countdown for the historic first flight. You can see in the top right of the screen with the video there of the live view of Launch Complex 2 at Wallops in Virginia in the U.S. Fueling is complete. Electron's first and second stage have been fueled with liquid oxygen and RP1 kerosene. They were fueled 2 hours ago, and they've just been in a top-up mode, keeping them maintained for the hold that we have had here for the last hour and 45 minutes. It has been a longer day here, and we hope that we'll get the rocket off the ground. If we do, we'll have about an hour until payload deployment, so we will be keeping a close eye on that as well. As we continue through the end of this countdown, if you guys have the questions, you can send those in the chat. See a couple people. Is this Cape Canaveral? No, this is Wallops, Virginia in the United States out on the East Coast. I did want to bring it up here one last time before we kind of run out of time to look at it. If you do happen to live out on the eastern seaboard and you are anywhere in these colored areas, if we do get down to about 5 minutes, I'd encourage you to head out side to take a look. If you live in Dover, Philadelphia, Baltimore, Washington, Charlottesville, Richmond, Raleigh, Charleston, Pittsburgh, anywhere in these regions, all the way up here to the north, you have a very good opportunity of being able to see today's launch. The launch visible even all the way up into some parts of Canada as well. So really great opportunity to see an Electron launch. Here, these colors originate with how long into flight you'll be able to see them. Obviously, this is going to be reliant on your local weather conditions as well. But as we are now under 15 minutes into the count, we should be hearing that countdown go, no, go here shortly. We're just waiting for Rocket Lab to resume their comms feeds to enter into that terminal count of 12 minutes. We normally hear this right about the 14-15 minute mark, so we're expecting this momentarily. Of course, once we do, we'll listen in there for that count. Big one we're watching for is GNC. They were the ones that were no-go and trending no-go the last time we tried to go into a terminal count, and they are the only thing at this time that we know is currently red, so we are keeping an eye on that as we go through the remaining 14 minutes of today's window. Here we go.
Will hopefully not be an issue. We have 2 exciting missions set to fly from this NASA range for the agency itself.
The mission names are TROPICS, and that stands for Time Resolved Observations of Precipitation Structure and Storm Intensity with a Constellation of Smallsats. Quite a long name, but an exciting mission to send 4 CubeSats across 2 launches into low Earth orbit to measure temperature, humidity, and precipitation structure to track the evolution of tropical cyclone intensity. These missions are set to launch in the middle of next year, and we cannot wait to see another few Electrons on the pad in quick succession.
12 minutes, 30 seconds on the clock. Should be waiting to hear that go, no go poll here shortly to enter terminal count. They may or may not have not patched it in, so we'll be keeping an eye out for that update here. As last time we held at 11 minutes 59 seconds, so we want to see if the clocks will run past that time and if we enter terminal count, and we'll find out here in about 10 seconds.
All stations LD on countdown, proceeding with the final poll for launch. Go, no go.
Here we go.
Sequence. Stage.
Stages go.
Avionics.
This is go.
GNC.
GNC is no-go. GNC is no-go for upper level winds.
Copy. VCon.
VCons go.
T1.
Let's go.
GC.
GC is go.
PLS.
PLS is go.
Mars CE.
RCE is go.
Mars Ops.
Mars Ops is go.
Mars 1.
Mars 1 is go.
NASA GSO.
GSO go.
NASA RSO.
RSO is go.
MM.
MM is go.
LD SUP.
LD sub is go.
And NASA TD.
NASA TD is go.
Okay, all stations, unfortunately, we are going to be no-go today. We'll have to hold the count. Can't say we didn't give it our all. Vehicle is perfect, pad is perfect, everything is perfect except for those upper level winds. So we'll come back.
And looks like they cut the feed there, but with that, they gave an attempt. They ran the clock as much as they could. Their clock's still running. They're going to be going through their scrub features there, but it is not looking. We are not going to have a launch attempt here today. They will not be entering terminal count here at the 10-minute mark. You can see there they have officially paused the clock, and they will now begin safing the vehicle. But what a good try.
Launch Complex 2. Well, the team put up a good fight, but unfortunately, as you heard there, those upper level winds got the better of us today, and we will be standing down from a launch attempt. We do, though, have a backup opportunity tomorrow, so we will see you back here then. Thanks for joining us for today's attempt. We look forward to bringing you the liftoff of Virginia is for Launch Lovers very soon.
And with that, it is, we have ended for the day. We're going to pause that really quickly there. That is the final view we have of Electron out on the pad for today, but scrub due to upper level winds, unfortunately. We'll be staying up to date with Rocket Lab on the next launch opportunity. If you haven't yet, follow us over on Twitter. That's where we'll live tweet updates as we get them. You can also join us over on our Discord. That's where our space community hangs out in between streams, and we hope you'll join us there. And consider taking a moment checking out our shop. It is launch day, so you can get 10% off of everything with promo code LAUNCHDAY on our store. But with that, we're going to wrap up here for tonight. Thank you to all of our new members and subscribers. Thank you to those that sent super chats, helping us continue to do what we do here at the Launchpad. Here at TLP, it's our mission to inform and inspire the explorers of tomorrow, because we believe that space is better together. And if we do not see you before Christmas or the New Year's, from the entire TLP crew, we want to wish you and your family a very happy and merry, healthy Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year's as well. We've got a couple more launches this year, so we hope we will see you then. But if not, we will see you in 2023. But for now, this is Zach from TLP Network's main studio signing off. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.